I will ask for forgiveness in advance for we are having to do this under circumstances that we have not experienced before. And so we hope we have it where it will flow smoothly. James Berryhill at the back is going to help direct, and Nick at the front, who's my technical assistant on this issue today, and we'll get it out. I want to give an opening speech, I guess you'd call it, remarks. And I would point out there is a document that has my name at the top in the public hearing on SB 250. And it outlines the three main components of the bill in some detail. I think we have enough of those scattered around the room for everybody. If you don't get one, please let us know. And for those of you at home, on the, what are we on, Zoom? Is it, yeah, those of you on Zoom, we'll somehow figure, if you ask for it, we'll figure out how to get copy of this to you. It's, James, is this registered in the internet? Okay, all right. All right, well, thank you very much. And again, welcome everybody. I'd like to highlight some of the benefits of this bill. Not all of them by any means, but this bill opens up the Delaware market to new participants and new modes of participation. By joining together a new mode of organization to become available for community participation. The communities of faith, for example, are already imagining new modes of action that can speed the momentum of change in this arena. For years, low and minority income families have been priced out of the market of renewable energy. SB 250 offers a new paradigm and an organizing method that allows citizens to go to their local government, town, county, or city to develop the power of sun to benefit all. Following that are new developments that are coming down the road. Virtual solar would allow tenants to own solar not on the roof of their apartment building, but perhaps on the roof of their city hall. New methods and technologies of storage and microgrids will further enhance the values of solar energy. What this bill is trying to do is see that one of the things we do is get those values of solar energy directly to the people. We want affordable electricity, but not polluting electricity, not asthma epidemics, not a freeze on the solar market. It is hardly a bargain to have cheap energy that contributes to dirty air and harms our lungs and our hearts. We should not settle for this bargain, and we do not have to. Wind and solar energy are competitive with combined cycle natural gas in the market. USEIA has proven that we can have affordable electricity that is good for our health and our environment. This bill also includes a cap that avoids freezing solar market development and lowers the cost to consumers. An analysis done by Delmarva Power and Light, oh, that's the old term. You just figured out my age. Okay, done by Delmarva Power shows that its customers currently pay on average $7 a month for renewable energy. SB 250 would initially crafted to realize a 40% target number that enables Delawareans to take advantage of falling solar prices, but it would lower that cost of renewable energy, average cost, average consumer, to $3 a month. So you see, we can lower the cost to Delaware consumers with Senate Bill 250. Only the federal government has the authority to make the electric energy industry include the environmental and health costs of their product. We can't do that, but we can incentivize markets to provide us with affordable, health positive, and environmentally positive electricity. And that is exactly what Senate Bill 250 does. We should address the climate problem head on. Let's not make the mistake and make it worse to build this. We need to build a sustainable and just energy future. We did well 20, it was actually 15 years ago, well, 20, working on it, and 15 when it happened, that we did a set of policy of 25% of renewable in our electric fleet mix by 2025. We are going to meet that goal. But we can do better, and we need to do better. We must understand that the danger that we are creating by not acting for our planet and for ourselves, and it is severe and critical and must be addressed. The death of George Floyd has made every American think about the systemic character of racism in our society. Communities, our Black and brown communities are on the front lines battling the consequences of climate change. More and frequently and more intense storms, deeper droughts, worsening floods, increased health risks, and much more expensive food. Delaware is a small state, and we cannot simply turn off climate threat by ourselves. But we face moral choices in so many areas about how we live and who pays the price and what damages are done to our ecosystems, some of which are maybe irreversible. We need to invoke higher standards. And please remember that 75% of greenhouse emissions causing the climate emergency are rooted in the production and use of energy. Who has and who will pay for unacceptably low standards of policy development? There is no denying it. Our poorest members, our communities of color, our children, and our grandchildren. And none of these members have caused this problem. Surely we can do better. Definitely we must. Thank you very much. So I welcome that. Now I'd like to welcome my co-sponsor, Representative Osinski, who I'm looking forward to because he gives a better speech on this than I do.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative.
Thank you. As the Senator stated, I am the House sponsor of Senate Bill 250, and I'm proud to join my colleague in this legislation. I support this legislation because I do think Delaware needs to move to the sustainable energy goals that are laid out in Senate Bill 250. But the thing that really caught my eye in this legislation is the Community Sustainable Projects, the Authorities Act that is created in this. You know, we've all seen a move away from single family homes, and there is a growth in townhomes, condominiums, apartments, especially in our urban areas. And those individuals do not have the ownership or the footprint to participate in the creation of renewable energy. It completely eliminates them from this cost-saving source of renewable energy. So this community's Sustainable Energy Authorities Act will allow them to participate in there, where right now they are completely eliminated. So, there's a lot of strong support for this, but I also understand there's some concern and opposition to this. So I want to thank the senator for having this public meeting so this allows him to address some of the concerns, maybe correct some of the misstatements about this legislation, or possibly even improve it. So anyway, I want to thank you all for participating this morning and thank the Senator for putting this together. Now, if you have any specific questions on the legislation, I do ask that you direct them to the Senator or Nick, who have a lot more knowledge of everything, the nuts and bolts of this legislation. But thank you for participating.
Thanks, Ed. And I'm actually skipping over somebody's very, very important, has rank, but he's just given me permission. I want to introduce 3 of my colleagues to you all. And I want you to keep an eye on these 3 people. They are super new additions to the legislature, I think. And they're going to go far. And so I'll introduce them one at a time. Senator Darius Brown. Is Darius here yet? Okay, we'll try to come back to that. Senator Elizabeth Lockman, better known as Tizzy. Oh, she had a phone call. She'll come back. Next is Senator Laura Sturgeon, and I think she's on virtually. She'll be joining shortly. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead to the man who has the ranking on us here. Secretary of Natural Resources, Sean Garvin. Welcome, Sean. I believe you have a transmission to read to us.
Thank you, Senator McDowell, for providing this opportunity. I'm actually going to read a statement on behalf of Governor Carney in his support of this legislation. And then I'm going to make just a couple comments for the department and myself. Climate change is already affecting Delaware. As the lowest lying state, our citizens and businesses will particularly bear the burden of failing to address it. As governor, I've joined Delaware to the U.S. Climate Alliance and pledged to reduce greenhouse gases, not only to do our part in what must be a global effort, but also to lead on an issue that is clearly in our state's best interest. In his long and distinguished career, Senator Harris McDowell has recognized the science and threat of climate change and has led Delaware into a more efficient, more renewable, more responsible energy future. He did so in part by guiding the General Assembly and state government to create the Renewable Portfolio Standard, establishing a mechanism for increasing renewable energy capacity and decreasing our state's greenhouse gas emissions. Delaware's RPS, Senator McDowell's RPS, is working. By using market mechanisms, letting solar and wind generators compete, we have been bringing costs down and putting solar panels up. Solar energy capacity in Delaware has grown from 2.3 megawatts generated in 2008 to more than 125 megawatts generated today. Delaware is now home to more than 6,000 solar installations, mostly rooftop systems, and costs have come down as the market has grown. Nearly 500 Delawareans earn a good living in the solar energy industry. SB 250 builds on this success, and there are 3 important aspects to this bill. First, it sets a target of 40% of the state's energy from renewables by 2035, continuing the development of more renewables, reducing our climate impact, and supporting jobs. This continues Delaware's leadership in this area. Second, it provides certainty in the implementation of price caps to ensure renewables are developed cost effectively. As older, more expensive contracts are replaced by new, cheaper renewables, we are confident that the cost of achieving 40% in the year 2035 will be even lower than what we are paying today. Third, Senator McDowell has proposed new pathways for community-owned solar systems to be established so that Delawareans in all communities can reap the benefits of renewable energy. SB 250 is good for Delaware's environment, Delaware's jobs, and Delaware's communities. We urge the General Assembly to promptly pass SB 250 to keep Delaware on path to clean energy future. Enacting SB 250 would be a fitting conclusion to Senator McDowell's distinguished record of leadership on renewable energy. That is from the governor. Just two other quick things I wanted to add. One is the lead up to this meeting. I saw some things online talking about the cost of renewables being 19% of energy bills. That was based on a flawed calculation, which included cost of renewables that should not have been appropriately considered, as well as not including all of the aspects of what the cost of energy development is. I just so happened last night was writing my son's college tuition check and a few other bills, and one happened to be my Delmarva bill, so I did a quick calculation, and the cost on my bill came out to be about 3%. So I just want to make sure there was some clarification on that. And then second, I just want to address you, Senator, for your amazing leadership, not only on this issue, but a lot of social and economic issues, and particularly environmental issues throughout your long and distinguished career. And I'm happy to say for the last 23, you've been my senator. So thank you, appreciate it, and we hope that we can move forward with SB 250. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We would very much appreciate a hard copy of that letter from the governor if you're able to do that for us. And thank the governor personally from me, and I think from many of the people in this room. So let's see. We are we're going to the public comment period now. I am skipping over the possibility that I missed some co-sponsors, Senator House, in any order. But we don't know what's on the on Zoom. So if there are any of my Senator House colleagues that would like to speak, address the audience here, I think if you can make yourself known to James. Is that correct, James? Okay, so we'll do every effort to get you a moment. So now I'd like to go public comment period, and the first person I have signed up is Reverend Martha Kirkpatrick. Reverend Kirkpatrick, are you here?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Senator McDowell. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you especially for making this possible virtually in support of SB 250. I'm an Episcopal priest in Delaware and a member of the board of Delaware Interfaith Power and Light, and I also bring you greetings from Bishop Kevin Brown, who's a signatory on the letter from the clergy of many faith traditions across Delaware in support of this bill. For us, climate change is a profoundly moral issue. The science is compelling. Indeed, it's really incontrovertible at this point. We know climate change is real. We know the burning of fossil fuels is the major cause. We also know that the suffering caused by climate change threatens every aspect of our lives, from air quality to sea level rise to impacts on the ecology, health, community, the economy, all are affected. And especially our most vulnerable populations suffer most acutely. Pope Francis says this. He's not our Pope, but we agree with him on this especially, and on many other things. He says the crisis of climate change is both environmental and social. And this is exactly what excites me so much about this bill. I'm a former environmental regulator. I've seen a number of solar bills over the years. But this bill is especially innovative and pioneering in that it would not only increase the percentage of our energy from renewable sources, which is so important, it also supports the vitality and sustainability of local communities, the importance of which has become so apparent as we've suffered this pandemic. And it also brings lower cost energy to lower income Delawareans. Lower cost renewable energy to the very people who need it the most. This is a fantastic opportunity and one that we just can't let go to waste, to both love the earth and love our neighbor as ourselves. The Episcopal Church is excited by the prospect of partnering with our neighbors and communities to make real progress in the advancement of renewable energy and community sustainability. It is our sacred charge to care for creation and to care for each other. We all want to leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren. We don't have all the time in the world to address this crisis. We need to take bold action now for our planet and our communities, and this bill does that. Our parishes and a wide variety of faith communities supported by Delaware Interfaith Power and Light, we will work together to expand the reach and support the success of this bill, because the health and welfare of our children depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend. And I just like to use one of my favorite phrases. The sun never sends a bill. So,
Indeed.
let's see, James, do you have next in line? Oh, good. All right.
Hello, my name is Dustin Thompson, representing the Sierra Club Delaware chapter, and today I'm speaking in support of Senate Bill 250. This legislation is exactly what our state needs right now to help us build back better in the state of Delaware. Not only will this legislation secure for the over 490 Delawareans that work directly in the solar industry here in the first state, but it can actually help create additional jobs in both direct and indirect markets. By expanding the RPS and ensuring that there will be not a freeze on our current renewable goals, we are ensuring that green employment remains a part of the Delaware economy for years to come. However, this legislation does so much more than that. It provides a more equitable path forward for renewable energy and for our state as a whole. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare some of the most profound racial disparities in our society. The fact that the Black community is impacted by both air pollution and by the pandemic in disproportionate numbers is not a coincidence. A Yale study showed that being exposed to even low levels of air pollution can significantly increase the risk of dying from COVID-19. However, the impacts of air pollution in Delaware did not start with COVID-19. Delawareans have been impacted by increased rates of asthma and other respiratory illnesses for years. By decreasing the reliance on dirty fossil fuel-based energy and transitioning to clean energy in our region, we can help reduce the air pollution in our state and save lives. To go even further, through the community solar program, we can bring equity to who has access to clean energy and green employment. By empowering communities to design the projects that can most benefit them, we are enabling them to take control of their electric bills and allowing them to demand local investments and employment. Municipalities, communities, and individuals will be in complete control of whether or not they want to take part in any of these projects. The myth that is flying around that this bill is going to increase rates for low-income communities is simply not true, 100% false. Because in terms of community solar, they have complete autonomy whether they want to participate in the projects or not. So if the projects are more expensive, why would they participate unless they want to? This is how we protect individual rights while expanding options and opportunities for everyone. It is only by taking bold action that we will move our state and our nation forward. Other states may have RPS goals that go far beyond what we are talking about here, but Delaware could be a leader in the movement for truly community-centered solar programs. That is why we encourage the legislature and leadership to move this bill forward and protect our progress and set the stage for the future of Delaware's energy policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. James?
Hello, and good morning.
Morning.
My name is Jeffrey Richardson, president of Imani Energy. We link concerns for environmental equity and care of our planet with the advancement of solar based upon principles of social, economic, and racial justice. We seek a new economy that includes people of color and low-income people as full participants. This is one reason why we have supported the community solar movement for many years. According to Energy Sage, the primary purpose of community solar is to allow members of a community the opportunity to share the benefits of solar power, even if they cannot or prefer not to install solar panels on their property. Project participants benefit from the electricity generated by the community solar farm, which costs less than the price they would ordinarily pay. Senate Bill 250 represents an opportunity for Delaware to more deeply engage in the growth of solar and renewable energy that is at work in Colorado, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, other states, and the District of Columbia. By moving forward and passing SB 250, the economic and environmental benefits of solar can be democratized in Delaware. Contrary to what some people think, lower income and people of color communities are interested. Who would not want freedom from utility costs that require a disproportionate percentage of their income? Poor and low-income people suffer from a lack of access to solar and the consequences of our dependence on fossil fuels, especially Black and brown communities. Their communities are most frequently next to air-polluting facilities that produce levels of pre-existing conditions that result in high coronavirus fatalities. Communities that most need cleaner air, lower utilities, jobs, and the economic benefits offered by renewable energy are locked out. It is unjust. Their lives matter. Black lives matter. I know the disappointment of residents who want solar but don't own their property or their roof is not optimal. Conversely, I've met with investors who see projects in Delaware but choose New Jersey or other states because our policies and incentive structures just don't work for community-focused solar projects. It's bad for our economy. With COVID-19, unemployment, and racial injustice, we face a crisis in Delaware and the world. With the passage of SB 250, with the passage of this, we can take a step forward to a better future. We cannot afford to squander this moment. Young people are in the streets crying out for real change. We need community solar. Let's not compound a health and economic crisis with a crisis of vision. Bring Senate Bill 250 to the floor. Vote to support this urgently needed legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
The next is James. Hi, Tony. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tony DePrima. I'm the Executive Director of the Sustainable Energy Utility. First, let me say, as I said at our first set of hearings, I'm here as a resource. I'm here to share some information about the importance of solar to the Delaware economy, and how particularly now when we're trying to jumpstart our economy back after this, as we are in the COVID economy, this bill becomes very important, particularly with respect to rejuvenating and preserving the RPS. So again, full disclosure, my organization does run the online SREC auction. We do get fees from that. And we do have a role in this legislation in creating the authorities. But again, I'm really here not to speak for the bill, but mostly to provide some information to the task force and the rest of the members about the solar economy as we see it. First off, in terms of the SREC auction that we operate, you heard some statistics earlier from the secretary. The auction itself has, over the years, in the past 8 years, I believe, maybe 9, we have now registered and offered SRECs through the auction to over 2,500 systems in Delaware. And that represents about 70 million kilowatts of power. So it's been a very successful program. And I can tell you that undoubtedly, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our loan programs, particularly in the commercial sector, every one of our commercial loans, those borrowers are also depending on income, so they are participants in the SREC market. So one of our programs we do run is a commercial loan program for energy efficiency and renewable energy. I'm going to talk a little bit about the solar sector that we've been lending to. And by far, within the last 3 years, our largest kind of client in the solar sector has been poultry farms, predominantly in Sussex County. We have lent money to over 30 farms in Delaware. Most of those poultry farms, we've had 1 dairy farm and 1 grain farm. Again, these represent almost half of the commercial lending that we've done in the solar area. Over $7 million to farms alone. We've estimated through our program that there's about $600,000 in energy savings from the use of solar. So that is money that our borrowers are putting into their system, buying an asset instead of sending the money off to the utilities. We have also lent to nonprofits. We have loaned to churches to put solar systems in. We have lent to the Wilmington Housing Authority as a nonprofit. We have lent to many small businesses, car washes, medical centers. And so again, wide variety of borrowers in the solar market. Every one of those represents a job. It represents savings for their company because we only lend when the energy savings are greater than the debt service. So they are cash positive with each loan. So every one of those represents positive benefits to the economy. We also have recently, within the last couple of years, a residential loan program. We wanted to help homeowners own their own system instead of getting into leasing systems. And so just in the last few years, we have lent over $3 million to homeowners for their solar systems. That was about 200, I think we're about 200 borrowers right now. Again, each one of those systems represents solar jobs. It represents an investment in the community as we see it. And again, these are folks who are investing in their asset versus money going to the utilities for grid-based energy. So again, I think I've shown that the solar market here is very active. There's lots of interest across all sectors. Some of them, like the farm community, you wouldn't expect, but we've made more investment in Sussex County and than in any other county in terms of solar. And so I think that's an important factor for people to consider. I think we've heard some great stuff about the community solar aspect of this bill. We are ready and anxious to lend for community solar systems. It is about environmental justice. It is about getting a venue for lower income communities, folks who don't own their roofs, to participate and get the benefits of solar. And we are very excited about the idea of financing those and perhaps even under this legislation, sponsoring the authorities that will see these community community systems through. Again, this legislation lifts the barriers that exist in the existing solar community, community solar, which I think explains why, to my knowledge, we have no community solar systems in Delaware at all. With that, again, I'm here as a resource person, but I appreciate the work of the committee and everybody who's participating today.
Thank you, Tony. And if I could just maybe do a quick question, I'll put you on the spot, Tony. Could you give a guesstimate of what the total amount of the loans you've made over the last 10 years? In a decade?
Our total loan portfolio is up over $40 million for all systems. That's renewable energy and energy efficiency.
Thank you, Tony. All right. Thank you very much for participating today, Tony. That's most helpful. Mike's on. Mike's on. Next, James. Excellent. Lisa, welcome.
Good morning. And thank you,
Morning.
Senator McDowell, for this bill and this hearing. And thanks also to the governor and legislative leadership and all who are speaking out to support this bill. My name is Lisa Locke. I am speaking on behalf of Delaware Interfaith Power and Light. We work through faith communities and community partners to address the causes and consequences of climate change, to scientifically inform and spiritually deepen our understanding of the intricate relationships we have with the natural world and with each other, and to act on those understandings. I would like to share excerpts of the letter signed by 40 prominent faith leaders from a wide diversity of religious affiliations that was sent to every member of the General Assembly. Given that our collective communities of faith consider climate change to be a defining moral issue of our times, challenging our understandings, calling ever more profoundly on our testaments of faith, our reservoirs of hope, our sense of shared humanity, inspiring us to action, we urge your support of SB 250, critical legislation introduced to combat the causes and consequences of climate change and sea level rise, boost a greener economy, and address inequities in access to clean, affordable, renewable energy sources. With so many critical issues demanding our attention, our resources, our prayers, and our prophetic discernment, coronavirus being so prominent, we cannot lose sight of the even greater threats of a warming planet. We have a moral obligation to understand and quantify those threats and to take the bold actions necessary to flatten the warming curve. Beyond mitigating the negative consequences, we believe the initiatives and incentives that could come out of this bill would provide a range of direct benefits to our worship facilities, our members, and the communities we serve in terms of cost energy savings, job creation, and healthier air to breathe, while addressing racial and income inequality. We believe we are our sisters and brothers' keepers, that we are responsible to care for the wonders of creation that both delight and sustain us, that in caring for creation, we are caring for ourselves and honoring the Creator. And we believe this legislation takes a consequential step toward meeting our moral obligation as it in turn addresses the related health risks and financial burdens so many in our congregations and around the state are enduring. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for that letter that was quite moving. I take a moment to announce we've had a visitor I was expecting. Senator Darius Brown has joined us, and he is not giving a speech today, but maybe he'll wave to us from the back of the room. Hi, Darius. You didn't get to hear me call you one of the bright lights for the future, but I did. And you and Tizzy and Senator. So we're looking forward to your continued support on this measure. Thank you. James?
Good morning. I'm Dale Davis from CMI Solar and Electric, but I'm here representing DSEC today. DSEC is the Delaware Solar Energy Coalition. We represent the 495 electricians, engineers, designers, procurement specialists, the skilled technicians, the sales and admin people whose careers have been made installing and maintaining solar power in Delaware, and also the many of thousands of people who have made the investment in clean solar power throughout our state. You know, back in 2008, Senator McDowell implemented an RPS that was forward-thinking and leading across the nation. And since that time, good policymaking by DNREC, the SEU, the Renewable Energy Task Force, and coupled with Delmarva's willing participation, has resulted in the lowest cost RPS compliance of any state. The cost of installing solar power in Delaware has dropped to 25% of what it cost back at the beginning of the RPS. These are all good things. But now we've got a situation where flawed regulatory rulemaking, due to misinterpretation of the current statute, has put those careers, those low costs, and those investments at risk. Senate Bill 250 fixes that. It implements a simple ratepayer protection circuit breaker that isn't open to manipulation by those who want to keep selling electricity produced in ways that pollute our air and dirty our water. Senate Bill 250 also removes the barriers to community solar so that all Delawareans can enjoy the benefits of solar power. It specifically requires that those community solar systems provide those benefits to low and moderate income individuals. Senate Bill 250 also encourages the adaptive reuse of polluted brownfield sites to produce clean energy. That converts a sad environmental legacy into a bright future. Senate Bill 250 increases the requirements for clean energy, but in moderation, in a well-considered way so that demand does not exceed implementation, allowing costs to stay low. DSEC urges the adoption of Senate Bill 250. Let's build on the advances of the past decade and create more opportunities for good jobs, savings on electric bills, and a cleaner tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. James?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Senator McDowell. We appreciate your leadership in helping all of us tackle the, as Lisa said, the causes and consequences of climate change. That is our mission as well. This morning, I'm going to speak for the Reverend Jeffrey Ross, who is the rector of St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Lewis. He could not be here today, but he asked me to speak and reference a letter that he wrote to Speaker McDowell. I write today to personally implore you to allow the Community Energy Authorities Act to come to the floor for a vote. As a resident of Southern Delaware, you know only too well the dire impact coal and other fossil fuels will have or have caused on the health of our fellow citizens. As parents, we have a moral obligation to leave our children a world better than we have found it. Climate change needs our every effort before the impact becomes irreversible. We do not have much time left, and the time to act is now. This legislation is an important next step for the future of Delawareans. It deserves to be at least openly discussed and debated. The more renewable energy sources that become available, the more we are able to build a better world for those who come after us. As a person of faith and religious leader, I pray you will join me and Episcopalians throughout the state and stand with those who seek to cherish the wondrous works of God and protect the beauty and the integrity of all creation for us and the generations to come. Thank you.
Reverend, thank you, Reverend. Reverend, if I might, I think that may not have been directed to me.
That was directed to Pete Schwarzkopf.
Oh, so I thought it didn't match up. Thank you. Thank you. James, thank you, Reverend. Oh, welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me, Senator McDowell. This is I'm Senator Sturgeon from the 4th Senate District. Well, we all love our districts, but I feel like I have one of the most beautiful districts, home to First State National Park in the Brandywine Valley, the beautiful towns of Greenville and Centerville, Brandywine 100 and Hockessin and Pike Creek. And something that I've been hearing consistently since I decided to run for office in early 2017, from the time I was on the trail knocking on doors to the last couple of weeks where I've received dozens upon dozens of emails from my constituents. Their number one priority above all has been preserving our environment and mitigating climate change to the extent that we can, because they care about maintaining the beauty of what we have here in Delaware, and of course being good stewards of this earth that, you know, we're the only species that is able to consciously do something about the imprint that we leave. And to me, it's just a moral imperative that we do the right thing. And I guess I've been thinking a little bit about what I might say today, and the metaphor of a house came to my mind. If we knew we were going to pass on, as we all will one day, and would we leave to our heirs a house that they had to live in, that they could not escape from, that we knew the air inside was dangerous to breathe and that the water was toxic to drink? We would never do that. And yet, if we do nothing, if we do not support this bill and other measures to stop climate change and to clean up our environment and to give people access to solar and other renewable sources, then we're basically just turning down our responsibility to the next generation, and we're saying, it's your problem, you deal with it. We are handing over a problem that we have helped create to others to fix. It's wrong, it's morally wrong, it's reprehensible, and I don't really think anybody who thinks it through believes that we shouldn't do everything in our power to make sure that the world we're leaving for the, not just the next generation of humans, but the trillions of species on the earth that arguably have as much right to live as we do, those trillions of species on the earth. We are the only ones who can actually consciously make an effort to do better. And so I'm here in support of the bill, in support of having the bill get a hearing on the floor for a vote virtually. And I just want to say that this, to me, is a number one priority. And I'm very, very grateful that Senator McDowell has been so persistent in making sure that we've had this day to all share how we feel about the importance of this bill. And I intend to support it all the way. And it's my honest hope that we get to vote on it. So thanks for having me. I echo a lot of the other comments that I've heard today. And since I don't have a lot to add because they've been so eloquently stated, I'm just going to say, yes, let's get SB 250 to the floor for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sturgeon. Thank you. James? Oh,
Whenever you're ready, Representative, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Representative Deborah Heffernan. I am proud to be a co-prime sponsor of SB 250. I represent the 6th district, which includes Edgemore, Bellefonte, and Brandywine 100. And I really want to commend Senator McDowell, who I've had the pleasure of serving with for over a decade, commend him on his commitment to renewable energy and to his commitment to social justice and environmental justice for Delawareans. As the chair of the House Natural Resource Committee and as an environmental toxicologist by training, I support SB 250 and see it as an important step for the state of Delaware to combat climate change, sea level rise, and to support environmental justice for communities, lower income Black and Brown communities, some of which I represent. I commend and thank Senator Harris McDowell for bringing this piece of legislation forward, and to Secretary Garvin and to Governor John Carney for their support. And I look forward to passing this piece of legislation in the General Assembly. Thanks.
thank you, Debbie. Okay. Okay. Welcome, Teresa. Are you on? Is that
Yes,
virtual?
thank you.
There you go.
Yes, I am. Good morning, Senator McDowell. I always remember you with your leadership for the driver's privilege card that benefited Latinos greatly in the whole state. Thank you for inviting me to speak in favor of SB 250. Thank you for holding this session and sponsoring this vital bill to stopping further climate change, generating green jobs, saving us utility money, providing energy security, and cleaning the air we breathe, and thus improving our health, especially the health of people of color. So this bill is a win-win-win for everyone. I want to speak to the reason people of color support it. It will dramatically help stop what is termed environmental racism. It will clean the dirty, polluted air we now breathe from our dependence on the burning of dirty oil and gas. For communities of color, this is a top priority because the doctors report that our communities disproportionately suffer its impacts. The health investigations of the matter are well known and documented by the best medical science in reports from the World Health Organization and also the Lancet Medical Journal. Now, only this week, another new report in the Journal of the American Medical Association repeated the same warning. The burning of dirty oil and gas was again found to create social conditions of disease on communities of color, especially on pregnant women of color. For us, this is an urgent health issue. We urge passage of this bill as part of embracing racial justice. We are celebrating the power of communities of color in many ways, and this will be something that echo this justice, this reparation, and that will be your legacy, Mr. Senator McDowell.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Carl, I know, is here. Aha.
Good morning. I am not here on behalf of my organization. I'm here as an individual citizen of Delaware. It might surprise some of you to know that I started off as a mining engineer, as a mining geophysicist, working in coal mines in West Virginia, underground coal mines in West Virginia, Pennsylvania. And then for those of you, most people in Delaware, however, know me either on work in international, primarily on international environmental issues, water and wastewater. And it's because of understanding the need to increase technology to attack our problems, whether it's the production of energy or how we do this. I'm here to give some statistics. Since 1990, global CO2 has gone up by 46%. And many of you may be familiar already with the UN Sustainable Development Goals to increase development and prosperity across the world. Under goal number 7, it would double energy efficiency by 2030. A large part of that will be the use of renewable energy. The United States use of renewable energy as a total share of energy consumption is only 9.9%, less than half of that of Canada, our neighbor and closest trading partner. We're even less than the world average of 17.3%. Some of the countries with which Delaware trades, Costa Rica, Chile, etc. For instance, Chile's use of renewable is 23.5%, Costa Rica 36.2%. An outlier, we don't have trade very much with Finland for Delaware, 44.4% of their energy is through renewables. What does this mean? The use of renewables, the use of technology to produce energy will free up resources, both financial and technological and energy, to supply energy to those who don't currently have it. For instance, approximately 60% of people in sub-Saharan Africa have no access to energy or electricity. It will also free up resources to produce manufactured goods at lower costs and higher efficiency, and also to increase the production of food to an ever-increasing world. And I'm available to talk about statistics. Engineer first, like statistics and math. So I'm here strictly as a private citizen and resource, and thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you. Jane? Oh, good. Good.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Good morning.
As it was mentioned that I am from the Ninth Ward Interfaith Clergy Coalition, but also I chair the NAA, the state conference for the NAACP, and the Interdenominational Ministerial Action Council. I'm not going to prolong this. I'm going to be brief. Everyone has said what you need to know of why we need the renewable portfolio standard. I'm here to support you in that bill. As a new great grandmother, I am particularly, I'm going to tell you what it means to me. I'm particularly concerned about our clean air, about our utilities. I also belong to the St. Vincent de Paul Society. We go out and give assistance to people who need it for their utility bills and rent, et cetera, et cetera. And just in the 19802 zip code area alone, that we have, particularly in this current state, we are desperate for clean energy. We are desperate for an environment. And as a new great grandmother, my grandson's wife, just really suffered because of she has a little condition with asthma, and that is particularly hard in our communities. Black folks are suffering disproportionately from the high rates of asthma. Our pregnant women, Delaware is still 14th in the United States for infant mortality. This impacts us. We live this every single day. When you can find monies and everything else for museums and structures that only serve a portion of people who could get to it. It's nice to have some entertainment, but we have to live. We have to breathe. We need the Senate Bill 250. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Livea. And Livea, if I might take the liberty as chairman to just say to you, Livea, are you there? I would just want to say, one of the things I pointed this out much earlier, but I'd like to remind you, this bill will allow, we have not been able to get landlords to participate in any green energy efforts. This will allow the renter to bypass the landlord. The renter doesn't need to have the landlord's roof. The roof can be, as I said, on City Hall, and the renter can lease it from there through one of these aggregated community solar programs. So it has a lot of parts to it. That will make a big difference, I think.
As we speak, I am submitting an application from the National NAACP office to put us solar panels on our PAL Center in Wilmington, in Wilmington PAL. So again, this is just the beginning of the education, because a lot of people still think climate change is all about ice caps and solar bears and people who want to go out and hug trees. But we are trying to raise the educational level of folks so that they can be informed and benefit from when the Senate bill gets passed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So, James, we're next.
Good morning. Is it still morning? Good morning. My name is Ruth Ann, R-U-T-H-A-N-N, Purchase, just like a strong grip on a mountainside. And my married name is James. I am the founder of Greenbridge Community Development Corporation, Friends of Lenape Everywhere, and a few other things we can talk about later. But I would like to address my questions and comments after thanking you, Sean, and Governor Carney, Senator McDowell, all of you elected officials, public servants. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to participate in democracy. But I would like to address my comments to a group of people that have not yet been represented in these comments. And it's a group of people I love. This is a group of people, these are my relatives. These are my people. These are people I want to live together with really well. And these are people whose leadership have declared unequivocally that climate change does not exist or it's an exaggeration. And these are people, hardworking, good citizens, who do not believe that racial inequality is an issue that requires a whole lot of action. People can pull themselves up by the broken bootstraps. And some of my family and friends who believe this have done that. These are sincere, good citizens who do not accept these logical, persuasive arguments. And so I'd like to quote one of my local heroes, a Delmarva boy, who is a Republican and an amazing orator. But before I read this quote, I just want to acknowledge the March on Washington today, the Poor People's Campaign. These people feel like they're in the 1960s again. Why are we here again? This is a group of people with a very loud voice right now. They are squeaky wheels. But there is no competition between those who believe do it on your own and those who believe we need a corporate response, a community response. So I would like to hold these two people as I read this quote, these groups of people that are dear to me. Where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where any one class of people is intentionally made to feel society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, denigrate. If these three conditions are in place, Frederick Douglass claimed that neither persons nor property would be safe. And he also said at another time, without a struggle, there will be no progress. And I recognize that. But how long? How long can we struggle against toxic air and water? How long can we survive? How long can we take the pittance of the taxes of the poor and put them towards subsidies for fossil fuels? How long can Mother Earth allow this to go on? And what must she do to cleanse herself of a suicidal species? So I'm going to breathe a very deep breath from way down here. Because we live together. We live together with very, very different worldviews, very different people. And I love very, very different people who need to learn to live together well. I love opioid addicts in my family. I love alcoholics in my family. I love fanatics and cult members. I love my people. And I stand here before you saying I also love this planet. I love breathing the forest air and splashing in the Brandywine River. And I'm so happy that I can splash at Woodland Beach now. It doesn't sting anymore. I'm so happy that freshwater mussels are coming back. We're doing so much, but we've got to step it up, people. So I'm going to ask what exactly, this is a quote from Maria Montessori. I'm actually getting a Montessori certification in early childhood education to become a nature teacher. I'm going to grow old gracefully, surrounded by children and living things. And she asks us this question, and I ask our elected officials this question. What cultural, social, political, religious, or intellectual values, if any, might be important enough to impose on a community, to impose on a school, to impose on a child, to impose on a disadvantaged person or an elderly person. What right do we have to say that those who make money from poison, from toxins, are allowed to bribe our elected officials and control the conversation? And when do we allow cultural, social, religious, ethnic belief systems to come into balance, that we might find consensus for our common ground, for our common water, for our common air? We must learn diplomacy, and we must come together.
Thanks.
And now I'd like to close with a greeting for another small group of beloved people. These are the people who have been here since before recorded history. And they're not just the Maple Nation and the winged ones. They are the Lenape. And the Lenape or Lenape are still among us. And they still believe that Mother Earth is a sacred being. They still believe we must learn to live without doing harm to our relatives. And they are here among us despite cultural genocide. And they would like their ancestors to be honored. And that includes all living beings. So with them, I say, Ntaya sui kwechikichi nipen kishok. We are singing into the long summer day on this solstice, on this eclipse, on this great turning. May we come together and say to one another across great divides, Wanishi Wemi, thank you.
Thank you
For life.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your passion. We need passion to convince people, and we hope that you've set us on the right track. Thank you. James? Okay, is that on Zoom? Oh, no. Is it coming up?
Okay, thank you, Senator McDowell, for allowing me just a couple of seconds to speak on behalf of SB 250. I think as other speakers before me have so eloquently put it, they have covered pretty much the entire gauntlet of the stakeholders who are best served by this bill. So, I represent the Islamic Society of Delaware, but I think our faith partners have really wonderfully expressed the views of the various faiths in support of 250. So the one thing I would say, I think, given the fact that I also work in corporate America, I'll share one lesson that I learned, and that's what gets measured gets acted upon. So thank you for this bill, obviously, because we are setting a target, moving from 25% to 40%. Now that this will hold people accountable and set a new measurement, I believe different people will act towards this new benchmark that will allow Delaware to be much better positioned to be competitive in the future. At the same time, obviously, help us all enjoy the benefits of Mother Nature that we have here in Delaware. So thank you again for your leadership in bringing this bill forward, and I look forward to this passing as law in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On Zoom. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. I'm assuming you can hear me.
We have you.
Okay, Senator McDowell, Representative Osinski, I think was it Senators Lockman and Brown, and Secretary Garvin. I really want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this bill that, frankly, Senator McDowell, you have been so instrumental in championing and getting us here. This is one of the issues that attracts me to this the most is the economic justice element of it. For solar energy, we are generally have two Americas and two Delawares. We have the haves and the have-nots. I am very fortunate to have solar panels on my roof, and we really have financial independence of that. We've generated more electricity than we've consumed in our house this calendar year. But that's because we own our house. It happens to be facing the right way, and we have that ability. With this bill, with Senate Bill 250, this can be made available to those who rent. It can be made available to those who live in shady areas. And I'm going to say equally as important, it can be done economically, because the scale that community solar provides is a very smart way to add solar to a renewable portfolio. So this is smart legislation. It's just legislation. It's critical legislation. And I'm really looking forward to this. I was pleased. We've already heard from two of the House co-primes with Representative Osinski, Representative Heffernan, also Representatives Griffith and Siegfried are two additional co-primes. So those four are joined by 9 co-sponsors from the House, including myself. That's half of the Democratic caucus. I know that we have extremely unusual times in our state and in our legislature. We only have a few days of legislative action left to us. It's very much going to be a challenge to move this forward through both the Senate and the House. I'm hoping that the importance, I think Mr. Davis raised the issue of how time critical this legislation is. I'm hopeful that with the energy that we hear today, with the importance of the full community that supports this, that we truly can move this through the legislature this year. It's going to take all of us, and I'm there hoping that we can, and I will do all that I can to help move it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. And Paul, thank you for everything you've done. I'm proud to have you at my side in this battle. So next, James.
Am I live?
Oh, yes. Welcome, John.
Hi, I'm John Sertich. I'm president of Clean Energy USA. We're the largest solar rooftop installer in Delaware. And I'll circle back to this, but we've done about 18 megawatts out of the 123 or 4 that Delaware has installed in its history, one by one, roof by roof, mostly here in Sussex County. Before I start my comments, Senator McDowell, besides your guys' failures on the Delawario-Finlandian relations that we've learned about earlier, I just wanted to say that your service, mission, and growth have been an inspiration. I've watched you grow from afar, and I've just seen, you know, this is a culmination of a lot of great things you've done, but how you've served our state and how you've grown have been really inspirational. So as someone who deals with a lot of individual customers, we don't have any huge projects out there. Our biggest projects are like 100 kilowatts, and we've managed to get to 18 megawatts roof by roof. And we don't, even though our company is headquartered in Rehoboth Beach, I deal with all sorts of people. And to some of the comments from earlier, it's very few of them are minorities, unfortunately. And I think even though community solar may pose a competition to our business, I welcome it. It's a sadness I see when we don't have the opportunity to deal with people who can't afford it of all walks of life. But what I see, I mean, more of our customers than not, just because of the economic backgrounds, who can afford solar a lot of the time, are right-leaning. And I can tell you with all certainty, but both through polls that I saw last year and through my personal experience of dealing with person after person after person after person, the right-leaning voters in Delaware overwhelmingly support solar. And it's surprising to me that the people who represent them often don't support it. So I don't know where that disconnect is, but I want those people who represent the voters to know that there is overwhelming support. In fact, the thing I hear the most is, why wouldn't they support it? And that's coming from people who've just told me something that makes me want to like bite my lip, and I can't say what I really feel about their political leanings sometimes because it just doesn't do anything productive. But these people support it and are often coming from places like New Jersey or Maryland or other states nearby that overwhelmingly support it, and they just assume that Delaware supports it as well. So, I mean, we've gone to this world of politics where somebody who denies science has equal say to somebody who's just trying to pass what would be considered a moderate bill for a lot of our neighboring states. This bill is not radical. This 40% is conservative relative to not just our neighbors, but it's wildly conservative to some of the states that are leading the way. It just keeps our head above water in some regards. To what Dale Davis said earlier, I can't tell you enough. I mean, we employ 23 people here in Sussex County, Delaware. There's not a lot of great jobs here in Sussex County all the time, especially right now. If we don't fix what's going on in the solar industry with a bill like this or with portions of this bill, I can't even tell you what's going to happen to my company and the people here. We're not going to go to nothing. We have to service systems. We have 2,400 systems predominantly in Sussex County, so we're going to have to take care of those. But I'm going to have 24 high-paying jobs relative to this area that most of them are going to go away. And then the last thing is another kind of like the Republican representatives who don't seem to be actually representing their constituents is, and this is not an attack on them. I'm just saying it doesn't seem to connect. What I hear in the field doesn't seem to connect with what people are saying, how they're leaning or how they're not taking it up as a vote. They should be first in line to impress these voters that might kick them out someday if another Republican or even some other party comes in and represents them better. It looks at them in the eye and says, hey, we're not going to listen to our buddy down the street who's saying that there's no climate change, that we're going to listen to our voters that have moved here. My other thing is, why does DMEC fight so hard? Why do some of these people who really aren't affected directly fight so hard against something? What's in it there? And I think that's a conversation at some point that during the debate over this needs to be brought up publicly in front of your colleague, Senator McDowell. But anyway, thanks for your service. And I'm sure we can work on those relationships with Finland after you're out of the Senate, and we can make that a lot better in the future.
Thank you, John. If you could just, if you stay for a minute, I'd like to pause here a minute to say something. First of all, you may be the first person to ever accuse me of being conservative. So I'll take that. But I did want to mention earlier, this may be a good point to do it. The important thing, one of the important things, and it's the incredible thing that you wonder why people are opposing. This bill is completely opt-in. Nobody is made to do anything if they do not opt in. And the reason I could put that, all the other states that have done this have been opt out. The legislation puts them into community renewable solar. And then if they want out, they have to try to opt out. What we've done is said, nobody's in, you have to opt in. And, oh, geez, that's wrong. And I had the confidence to do that because I really believe when this gets in operation and people see the first one to do this and the power that it will bring directly to the citizens involved and the financial gain that it will bring and the environmental gain and the health gains that it will bring directly to people involved, there won't be an argument anymore. People will be clamoring to opt in, so I don't have to make them do it. Okay, James? Joe Yanyang. I'm glad you said that and not me. Joe's name, I wrestled with a little bit last night, and I wasn't sure I had it right. I believe you got it right, James. Joe, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Senator McDowell, for the opportunity to share our findings. Now, my name is Dr. Joseph Nyangon. You can call me Joe. I'm a research fellow at the Center for Energy and Environmental Policy at the University of Delaware. And I would like to share results from a report on community solar that the center will release in the next 2 weeks. I would like to begin by giving some context or rather background to our report. Now, first, subscriber-based community solar models refers to an approach in which a third-party private developer organizes a pool of subscribers to pay for a share of output and use the financing model to invest in a community solar. Now, we call it subscriber-based because it is like a magazine subscription. Now, the amount of solar depends upon the number of subscribers who are willing to pay for it. Now, this approach does not include a public governance or a public policy presence. Now, the second model, which is what SB 250 proposes, has a public governance and public policy presence. Local governments organize programs and policies to attract the participation of citizens as well as businesses. Now, we call this approach community active solar development. Now, under this arrangement, a local government must have the authority, often granted by a state law like SB 250, to offer this option. And the first step is for the solar government, for the local government to then decide whether it wishes to create a program. Now, that is, the local government must opt in, just like Senator McDowell has just highlighted. Now, second, as with SB 250, citizens then choose whether they will join the program. They can opt in, that is, they must choose or opt in. That is why local governments often call these programs community choice programs. Now, another distinction of community active solar is that local governance includes explicit representation requirements for low and moderate income communities and an explicit policy to share the benefits of solar with low and moderate income communities. Now, with that context, I would like to highlight 4 major findings from our report. First, most community solar programs in the United States are subscriber-based, but in just 3 years, the community active model has grown by almost 350%. In just 2 states, that is California and Massachusetts, community active solar has installed almost 7 gigawatts of solar as of 2018, which is 6 times the 1.3 gigawatts that the National Renewable Energy Lab reports for subscriber-based community solar. Second, community active solar only succeeds if its offer of solar-powered electricity is competitive enough with conventional grid power. In that cases of California and Massachusetts, we have found that residential participants pay approximately 13% less than they would by buying from conventional utilities. Now, this is already happening. States are already in the process of implementing these models, as I've highlighted with California as well as Massachusetts. Now, third, community active solar appears to grow much faster because of its explicitly public governance and policy presence. This includes a clear guidelines for the design of projects with approval by local government to serve the needs of all communities and assure low and moderate income participation in the design of projects and in the benefits which are reaped from them. Now, fourth, solar programs, including community active solar, create a material number of jobs. We estimate that if SB 250's target of 40% renewable energy with 10% coming from solar is met by the year 2035, it's going to result in almost 21,000 job years in 15 years of development. Or to put it differently, a new continuing solar workforce of about 1,400 employees statewide. And finally, now there are groups of researchers who worry that the ability of the grid power to accept a percentage like 40% solar. Now we asked the Institute of Energy Conversion and Engineering Lab at the University of Delaware to prepare a section of the report on this matter, which concludes that new technology and new methods of integrated management of grids has removed the need to set absolute limits on solar development. Thank you for the chance to present these findings. We are going to release this report in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. And I want to say, if you could speed up any of that 2 weeks, I would be most grateful.
We are trying, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to second John's sentiment about Republican support for renewable energy. I have had absolutely the same experience. So my name is Ann Kirby. I am the private sector chair for the Delaware Energy Services Coalition. I am a steering committee member and outreach chair with Green Building United. But most importantly, I am a consultant and business developer in the solar industry. I want first to be clear that there are aspects of this bill that I personally and professionally think are not far-reaching or progressive enough as compared with nearly every surrounding state in our region. Similar to what John also said, Delaware is not a renewable energy trendsetter. Opponents to this legislation have only self-serving motivation and do not represent the large majority of potential beneficiaries. There is nothing controversial about this bill, and although they want others to believe so, that is not accurate. The arguments that they have presented are spurious. The leadership of the Delaware legislature has imposed restrictions on the types of bills being considered this session. Let's not confuse SB 250 as something that does not fit that criteria. This legislation is pertinent to the current urgent concerns of Delaware. This is a money bill. If we do not get this passed now, in the next year, Delaware will see destabilization of our solar industry. This will come at economic harm and jobs loss at a time when our state economy cannot afford additional setbacks. Energy policy is and should be a part of our economic recovery. The renewable portfolio standard is already essentially frozen. Increasing the RPS, which is a primary piece of the bill, should affect an increase in the value of renewable energy credits or RECs, which subsequently increase the economic value of solar investment. In my professional opinion, with the RPS frozen, investors considering a solar project in Delaware must unfortunately model the RECs to be valued at $0. This is the critical point that will have a negative impact on investment in solar projects and therefore a negative impact on solar and energy jobs and ultimately on Delaware's economy. There are some 500 Delawareans working in the solar industry in our state, as well as many others employed in adjacent energy and sustainability sectors. Del Tech is graduating students who have chosen studies in energy and solar with expectations there will be employment opportunities. It is simply not acceptable to forgo action on this bill and fail those workers and business owners at a time when our legislators' major focus is to shore up our frail economy. Passing the bill in this session will not only stabilize the solar industry, but will increase investments. It secures those existing jobs and opens opportunities for additional jobs. It is essential our legislatures pass SB 250 in this current session. Anything other than that is a failure to our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, there
Renee?
it is. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So I just wanted to give a few words today, not only as Senator McDowell's fellow, who's worked very hard to create this bill with various people. I want to say something more so as a citizen. In the last 3 months, Americans have seen all of our lives flipped upside down. The coronavirus has exposed many of our weaknesses as a nation, as a state, and on every single level, which includes our dependence on other nations for essential products and services. At the same time, the protests of the death of George Floyd highlights the lack of commitment to making actual change within our poor communities, and especially those that are Black. And it's just a simple truth. SB 250 was built with the motivation not only to bring carbon emissions down and a healthier environment to the citizens of Delaware, but also to bring about sustainability on an economic and social level so that we can bring renewable energy to those that cannot have it at the moment. I cannot stress that more, that this bill was made with the intention to include those who are excluded otherwise, that do not own property, that do not have the capital to put forward for solar, because that's really where all the costs are, is in upfront capital. So we designed a program where if you don't have the funds to invest up front, you don't need to. And I think that is something that the people of the state need to hear. You can be included, and you don't even need to know anything about solar. We're going to make it so that you say, I want in, you can be in. And I think that's what's most important here. We've also made it so there's ultimate flexibility. As Senator McDowell said, a solar panel can go up on City Hall to support its community members, but it could also go to the schools who have very massive buildings. I'm not even going to take credit for it. It's a professor of mine's idea. But there's certain opportunities that are extremely rare where we can really build bonds with businesses and the schools and everybody who lives within the community. This is a special opportunity. I love that the faith leaders have recognized this on their own, and they are adamant about supporting this bill, and their support has been very important. And that is the motivation behind this bill, a more sustainable Delaware, not just a more environmental, but also socially and economically conscious. And it can help recuperate from the COVID pandemic and everything that's going on right now to build a more bonded community. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Also, just a special thanks to Senator McDowell. I'm very blessed to have gotten to work with you in your last 2 years, and I really appreciate that I got this opportunity.
Well, you've been wonderful, and I want these people to know this young man is very bright. He hit the deck running to help me get this bill together through a lot of machinations, and he just incredibly understood what it was about better than I did right away. And so I am so grateful to have been able to work with him. And I think, have you got your doctorate yet? You got your master's in structural engineering, and look for him. We'll see him going places. While I'm at it, James Berryhill in the back, who's done a great job for this. He's been my legislative aide for over a year, and he's done a great job. He's another one of the up and comings, I got to tell you. Thank you. Maybe this is a moment. I don't know how we are. Where are we in the total number of people that need to speak? Okay, we'll sort them. I just want to say, have we seen anything of the people who've been opposing this bill? Well, we're certainly open to them. Okay, I'm disappointed in that. Okay, James, who's next? Corey?
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Budashek, and good afternoon. I am an assistant professor in the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at Temple University, and I am also the previous chair of the Energy Technologies Department at Delaware Tech, which trains some of those solar graduates that Ann talked about. And I'm also a member and the previous chair of the Delaware community of Green Building United, which I'll be speaking on behalf of today. One other thing I'd like to say is that I'm a constituent of Laura Sturgeon, so thank you, Senator Sturgeon, for being here and making this a priority. I appreciate that. And I also, my background research is in the grid integration of 100% renewables, and I back up Joe's claim that our grid can handle 40% solar. I've done large computer simulations of that that was for my doctorate. So as you can probably tell from that introduction, I'm speaking in support of SB 250. And I wanted to also highlight something that several people have said, is that climate change is the moral issue of our time. And I think that's really important, not just for our faith leaders to say, but for all of us to say. It is the moral issue of our time, and we need to seriously think about how we're going to tackle this issue. And so if we want to think seriously about how to tackle it, I also want to talk about what our goals should be. So one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is to lower carbon emissions. And I'm quoting from this right now, that we need to have global carbon emissions need to fall to 55% of 2010 levels by 2030 and continue a steep decline to zero net emissions by 2050. So I want to put this bill in perspective here. If we look at the greenhouse gas emission inventory that was taken in Delaware in 2016, about 23% of our emissions in Delaware are from electric power generation. So if we pass this bill and hit our goal of 40% renewable energy, that would only be a 10% reduction in carbon emissions. So I think I am with John Cietrich here that this bill is wildly conservative for where we need to be. And it's a great first step, and I support it wholeheartedly. But again, we would get about a 10% cut in emissions from this bill by 2035, and we need a 55% cut globally by 2030 in order to be where we need to be. So, so this needs to be the start of the conversation, and I wholeheartedly support this, and I hope that this bill gets passed. But we can't wait until 2030 for more action after this bill is passed. We need to also broaden the conversation and the legislation. In order to really cost effectively move forward, all of my studies on the energy system show that we need to really think about really think holistically about the energy system. We don't need to think about transportation as one bucket that we need to lower emissions, and electricity generation as another bucket, and heating for our homes and businesses is another bucket. We really need to broaden the conversation and have legislation that wholly looks at the system, but not just an energy system, but a system that's also brings into account equity as well. And I think this bill is a really great first step to do that because of the community solar aspects of this. We really need to think about how we can bring equity into the conversation with everything moving forward. So just to conclude, SB 250 is a great first step, but it's only a first step. And I hope that the rising stars that Senator McDowell pointed out, Senator Sturgeon, Brown, and Lockman especially, will take Senator McDowell's legacy of being a champion for this cause, and we'll push it across the finish line even more. And again, we can't wait till 2030 to have another conversation on this. It has to be ongoing, and this is the first step. Thank you.
Thank you, and you remind me that I should have said all along, the real goal is only 100%. And we need to work towards that as much as we can. You've said that wonderfully, and I appreciate it. James? Okay, Sarah, I think is here. On Zoom? Wait a minute.
Are you there, Sarah?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you, Senator McDowell, for introducing SB 250 and for the original RPS legislation in Delaware. I am speaking in support of SB 250. Following on Corey's comments just now, the IPCC reports that global emissions must be halved by 2030 to avoid catastrophic climate impacts. It would be unconscionable not to increase the percent of Delaware electricity coming from renewables and to fix the cost cap that could prevent implementation of even existing RPS requirements. The cost of renewable energy has been falling for years and is expected to continue falling. Our neighboring states and the District of Columbia have established renewable goals and requirements of 50 to 100% by 2050 or sooner. And I urge the General Assembly to seize this opportunity to help preserve a living planet. Even without subsidies, the cost of renewable energy is already competitive with fossil fuel in some circumstances. And importantly, costs have been declining significantly and are expected to continue to decline. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory projects a fall for wind of 40 to 64% by 2050, and for solar by a fall of 47 to 74% by 2050. And Solar Energy Industries Association reports the cost to install solar is down more than 70% over the last decade. Echoing Corey and John's comments, our neighbors have established ambitious targets and mandates, including just a few of them, District of Columbia at 100% by 2040, Massachusetts 80% by 2050, Maine 80% by 2030, New Jersey 100% by 2050, New York 100% by 2040, Rhode Island by 100% by 2030. It's no exaggeration to say that SB 250 offers an opportunity to support a livable environment, and I urge the General Assembly to seize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you today. My name is Melanie Ezrin. I am a senior at the University of Delaware and president of Students for the Environment. Our members are passionate about addressing climate change because we see its devastating consequences around the world. Our future and the future of our children and grandchildren will be determined by legislators like you, Senator McDowell, and your co-sponsors who recognize that now is the time for action. Senate Bill 250 is essential to protecting our future and the lives of generations of Delawareans. As a coastal state, Delaware is especially prone to climate change and is already experiencing its consequences: erosion, sea level rise, increased flooding, and damaged farmlands. Senate Bill 250 will help Delaware avoid the worst impacts of climate change by ensuring at least 40% of our energy comes from renewable resources by 2035. We must follow the examples set by our neighbors in Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., amongst other states nationwide. SB 250 takes an important step in reducing Delaware's reliance on fossil fuels and will help us transition to a greener economy fueled by renewable energy. It also provides significant opportunities to get Delawareans back to work with high-quality, living wage jobs to build wind and solar energy infrastructure. The establishment of community solar programs through this bill not only reduces our collective carbon footprint, but it also mitigates two of the most significant challenges facing us today: how to rebuild our economy following the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how to address inequities for marginalized communities. Community solar programs eliminate the most common barrier to people who want to be sustainable: the high initial cost. On behalf of Students for the Environment at the University of Delaware, I strongly urge the General Assembly to pass this bill. Our futures are in your hands, and we hope you will take a stand and make the health of our planet your priority. Thank you.
Welcome, Claire. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I'm ready. My name is Claire Simmers, and I'm a citizen. I live in Bethany Beach, Delaware. I also like to try to contribute through efforts in the Delaware Sierra Club, the Center for Inland Bays, the 38th Democratic RD. I also am a professor emeritus at St. Joseph's University, and I'm still teaching. I teach a course in business ethics and also in sustainability. So I want to thank the senator and all of the people who have worked on this bill. I realize it is a step, as Corey said, but it's an important step that we have to take. I especially like the fact of the community solar piece of it. I also appreciate the ability to participate via virtual and to give that opportunity for increased participation by citizens. That not only increases that, but also reduces the amount of carbon emissions by us not having to travel. So I really do appreciate that as well. The benefits of solar power is a right, and it's a right that everyone should have. And right now, given the situation, most of the citizens in Delaware cannot afford it or do not have access to it. So this community solar piece of it will definitely contribute to environmental justice, to social justice, to economic justice. So I want to add my single voice to the community of voices, and I strongly urge this bill to come to the House and the Senate to be voted on and passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. I was wondering about that.
I'm going to assume you weren't apologizing because I'm here. So let me just start by saying I agree with Ann 100%. This is absolutely related to what the state does to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, we're facing huge job losses in this country and in Delaware. And not only will this bill preserve the jobs that we have, but it will create opportunities for people to get new jobs. And frankly, we should be encouraging the governor to be attracting new clean energy jobs in Delaware as well, which would significantly increase our employment. So I hope that's part of the plan. So I want to talk about fossil fuels for just a minute here. It's important to note that over 50% of the fossil fuel plants have closed over the last number of years. I can't tell you exactly. And it's really distressing to know that the federal subsidies for fossil fuel companies is actually more money than what goes for education in this country. That's pretty troubling. And so we clearly need to move away from fossil fuels. The false arguments that are being made about solar being more expensive are not true. And the price for dirty fossil fuels will increase, and if we continue to use them, they will also continue to pollute our air and water, particularly in minority communities. One of the things that has been remarkable this session has been the amount of support that we have from the public. And we were absolutely thrilled that 39 organizations and businesses signed a letter to the leadership and the governor and Senator McDowell, leadership in House and Senate, I mean, representing over 110,000 people. I had to look at that number twice when we saw the final number because I was amazed at how much broad support there is, not just from environmental advocates, but from the faith community, from businesses, from all kinds of people, Black and brown communities, everybody. And so people who, you know, I never understand why people don't believe in climate change or the climate crises. It's almost a four-letter word. So think about what has happened during this pandemic. We've had a 50% reduction in transportation mileage because people are stuck at home. It has resulted in a significant increase in greenhouse gases. Imagine what would happen as part of this recovery plan if we made a serious effort, as in Senator McDowell's bill, to move forward on renewable energy in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And if I might just say, I hope that everybody's seen the pictures, but even still, the skies are very, very clear. If you go out at night, you can see stars that a year ago you wouldn't see. And so, and if anybody's needs something spectacular, there's that photograph that's taken from the same spot in Los Angeles with when the smog is there, you couldn't see the buildings in the middle ground and the mountains didn't show at all. And then when had more than 100 million fewer cars on the road about a month ago, then you took a picture from the same spot and it was just dramatic. You could see it. I urge you to go to the internet and try to find it. It's there somewhere. Anyway, next, James.
Hi, this is
There. Charlie? He's been muted.
I thought I was on mute. Am I okay now?
There it is.
Thank you, Senator McDowell, for introducing this bill and having this hearing on the summer solstice. Can't think of a better way to spend my summer solstice day. My name is Charles Garlow. I live in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, testifying in favor of SB 250 on behalf of the Delaware Electric Vehicle Association, or DEVA, of which I'm the president. This is a nonprofit educational organization whose mission is to educate the public about the benefits of electric vehicles, which include less pollution, including less air and water pollution, lower costs of fuel, electricity costs only about a third the price of gasoline, and lower maintenance costs. Electric vehicles also reduce our dependence on foreign oil imported from countries that do not share our appreciation of freedom. Instead, we power our electric vehicles with energy that is 100% made in the USA, namely electricity. Some say, Charlie, you're just driving a coal-fired car. To counter this, we in DEVA install solar panels on our roofs, as I have, and or we can buy renewable energy from third parties. but we want to have more and more clean, renewable energy on the grid so that we are powered by clean energy wherever we go in Delaware, wherever we charge up. That's why we thank you, Senator McDowell, for SB 250 as a 40% step in the right direction to power our state, our world on 100% clean energy someday, perhaps by 2050. However, there are some municipal electric providers who have installed a lot of solar, good for them on that, but they find this bill distasteful, I'm told, because they fear third-party community solar projects would steal their existing customers. They fear competition. They don't want their customers to have the freedom of choice that I do, like Delmarva Power customers do. They're, if I may paraphrase, third parties, ugh, God forbid that the ladies at the Methodist Church would like to have 100% solar energy, the energy from heaven, to power their church and their parishioners with a community solar system, instead of the energy from hell, fossil fuels. Save us from the senior citizen center folks who would like 100% solar for all their members to do their part to save the world for their grandchildren. But if too many senators and representatives are persuaded by this distorted logic, then I would be in favor of just cutting DMIC out of the bill altogether. Don't let this bill die for the rest of us. Don't let the cost cap dispute freeze the existing law for the rest of us. And if you don't own an electric vehicle already, today's a good day to buy one, and before the incentives disappear. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. James?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Regards to the governor for his letter. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Julie McIndell, and I am representing Delaware United. I am going to read a brief bill in support of SB 250. Delaware took a major step toward creating a better environment with the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act of 2005. This established a market in Delaware for electricity from renewable sources and lowered the consumer cost of renewable energy. Delaware's utilities are currently required to increase the percentage of electricity derived from renewable sources, such as wind or solar energy, annually. State law mandates that the state will acquire 25% of its energy from renewable sources by the year 2025. SB 250 will allow small mom-and-pop businesses to partner with the communities they serve to help provide cheap renewable energy through the community solar program. The bill also extends the schedule of the original legislation up to the year 2035, including the percentage increase per year for how much of the state's energy must come from renewable sources. As a result, Delaware looks to operate at 40% renewable energy by 2035, with 10% produced by solar technology. SB 250 will also help resolve the dispute between the Division of Natural Resources and Environmental Control and the Public Service Commission over which entities should be involved in decisions regarding the proportion of clean energy used by the utilities under the state's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. This solution will ensure that the calculation meant to help protect ratepayers truly captures the cost of renewable energy requirements in Delaware. A lot has happened in the past 15 years, and no one can seriously debate whether or not climate change is real. As the lowest flying state in the country, Delaware must rise to this challenge and strengthen our renewable energy portfolio now. It is imperative that we work together to empower communities, protect our planet, reduce air pollution, and make the green energy sector more equitable. We can do all of that and more by supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Susan Mack. Are you there?
Yes, I am. thank you for this opportunity to speak. I wanted to speak in favor of a vote and the passage on SB 250. I am a resident of the city of Wilmington, and I'm also active in the Delaware chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm here speaking on my own behalf. First of all, I have been working and advocating toward an increase on the RPS, and I'm very, very excited that this bill would, in fact, increase and extend the RPS goals in the state of Delaware, which are essential for Delaware to do its part in addressing the climate crisis that we face right now, today, in Delaware and in the world. This is the 40% by 2035 is in fact a very modest goal. I would certainly hope that in the future that Delaware will see its way to a more aggressive goal. But certainly it's important at this point, since the original RPS legislation was enacted in, I believe, 2005, it's long overdue for an update and modernization. We need to extend and increase the renewable energy goals in the state. One aspect of this legislation, however, that was new to me was the community solar part. And I'm actually very excited about this. As a City of Wilmington resident, I'm very conscious of the limitations in living in a city. I've lived in row houses. I live now in a double house. I have a little more roof space, but certainly not enough to put in my own solar installation that would power my house. And I also am cognizant of the fact that a lot of the homes in our cities and in the city of Wilmington are historic homes. And in a lot of cases, it's difficult to do a solar installation on a historic structure. I think the community solar aspect of this legislation is just really attractive to someone like me who would love to participate in a community solar effort, but I really can't do it on my own home, even though I am a homeowner in Wilmington. I'm certainly aware as I drive in streets nearby me that many people are not homeowners, many people in condos and apartments who would also like to participate in a renewable energy future in Delaware. And I think this aspect of the legislation is really very, very important to include all of our communities. Finally, I'm very concerned that if this legislation is not passed now, this session, that there will be a freeze imposed on renewable energy in Delaware, and we are going to lose solar energy jobs that we have. We're surrounded by states who have already enacted much more aggressive, much more forward-thinking RPS goals. Delaware needs to just take this, what is really a modest increase in modernization of our law, and needs to do it now. I have two daughters, one's 19, one's 23. I can tell you that they do not understand for the life of them how we are not taking more aggressive action now and haven't already. It's just completely puzzling to their generation as to why our generation is acting like this is something unusual or that we need to even think about this. We just need to go forward and take action. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. James, I'd like to, we're nearing the end of our prescribed amount of time. I don't know whether we have anybody in the room who is here today. I think if we do, we should let them speak, who has not had an opportunity to speak and would like to. I'm not seeing any hands. I don't want to leave anybody feel like you made the effort to come here today and you didn't have your say. So, okay, I may ask that question one more time. Have you got somebody else on the Zoom? Well, let's see if we can knock that out.
Hello, Meredith. Are you there?
Yes,
Well, go ahead. Welcome.
thank you.
And I'd like to thank everyone from our legislation who is doing this today and for giving us the opportunity to be heard. I am Meredith Weiss. I'm a resident of Newark. I am a lifelong environmental activist who is currently participating along with the Delaware chapter of the Sierra Club and Delaware Interfaith Power and Light. I also am a lay leader and educator in the Delaware Jewish community. I'd like to basically ditto everything everyone has already said about the excellent points of SB 250. This is really, environmental action is such an urgent thing for our state, and I'm really hopeful that we get to push this legislation in this legislative session. It's a very essential bill. Green energy is an important part of environmental justice, which is also social justice, and I know that that's on everyone's mind right now. Delaware is the first state, and I would really like to see Delaware be the first state in environmental action, along with so many other things that we do so well. Delaware could be doing so much more in this arena, and SB 50 will help us to do this. And I love this bill because it is so different from other green energy bills that I've seen in different areas, because it has that part to bring in our low income populations, our the renters, the people who do not have the ability to directly bring solar projects to themselves, that, hey, I can be involved with a community project even if I can't directly affect it. And I think that is so novel and so very special. I'm also concerned, as others have said, that if this legislation is not passed in this session, that we're going to lose all of the momentum and all of the gains that we have made in green energy that we've gotten so far. And so I would just like to thank everyone again and urge that this be brought to the floor and voted and passed. Thank you.
Hello, Jill Balmer. You're up next.
Hi, Jill Balmer. It's with a G, and I
Welcome.
am speaking as an individual, though I am involved with the Sierra Club and the Citizens Climate Lobby as well. I am a relatively new environmentalist, I'm embarrassed to say. I reached around for organizations to become involved in after the 2016 election. And as I scanned the universe, I decided that clearly the climate change is the issue of our time, and certainly a moral issue. And as I think about it, kind of a survival issue. As someone who watches Mad Max, and I watch the dystopian world of increasing deserts, rising water, and the extinction of the biodiversity, I think to myself, egad, that is not what I want to leave my children and my grandchildren, if I ever have any. I'm a clinical social worker, recently retired, and I try to kind of see the world through people's eyes. Some time ago, I had a young African-American client who had a child, and she repeatedly told me the frequent trips to the ER because the kid had asthma. She told me the days missed from work because she had to stay home with an ailing child. And as I learned and grew about this RPS thing, I learned about external costs and the costs that are not covered by fossil fuels, the pollution that hits low-income folks, the air everybody breathes, the damage that it does to our environment. And I salute Senator McDowell for his efforts in this through the years. And I guess my parting thought is that those who are listening, Laura, Tizzy, Darius, and hopefully some on the other side of the aisle will pick up your legacy in the legislature and continue to advocate for strong moves in Delaware to save us from the disaster that potentially looms ahead of us. Thank you all for your time and your effort. And Nick, go Nick, you're really cool. You did a good job. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Gary Johnson, are you there?
I am here.
All righty, you're
first of all,
welcome.
thank you to my Senator McDowell for being so much at the forefront of this incredibly important legislation. I am a recently retired psychologist, and one of the things I bring to this is having spent a career working with people who need to change and who find change difficult. I see so many of the arguments against this reflecting that kind of fear. What will we do if it's not sunny for 3 days in a row? What happens if the wind goes away? People live on fear. I think that my own belief is we make changes when suddenly where we stand becomes worse than what we're considering. And where we stand is a world which is not going to be here for my grandchildren. Won't be here for my children. It may be here for my wife and me, but we're old folks. And I'm really speaking from my perspective. I also am a Quaker, and one of the core values we have is stewardship. And it's stewardship of our institutions and our environment. And I see this as an ethical issue, one for which there are a tremendous number of reasons not to do it, and a few extraordinarily important reasons why we should do it. This is a step in the right direction. I really hope this gets through the legislature this session. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Linda Grande. I too am in the mental health field. We seem like we're going last as mental health professionals. I'm not retired. I am a resident of Sussex County, but I'm here today representing my committee. I recently became the co-chair of the Environmental Committee of the 38th Representative District in Sussex County, Delaware. And so we represent the southeastern part of Sussex County. And we are completely in support of your bill, Senator, and thank you for all your hard work on this bill. We believe this will protect the health of our environment for generations to come, and it is an absolutely great start. It's going to help the economic recovery by creating currently more green jobs and keeping the green jobs that we do have. It's going to benefit lower income communities and increase the overall health of all Delaware residents by being able to have clean air to breathe. And I am really excited about the community solar piece myself personally, because I live in a community where it's half single homes, half townhomes, half condominiums, and I can't not put a solar panel on my building. So I'm thrilled with that personally. So we do support your bill, and good luck in getting this through, and hopefully it will get done this year. Thank you.
Is that it? All right. Let's see if we can wrap up a little bit here. I just want to say I appreciate everybody coming out today and all the effort that you put in. There's a lot of effort put in this letter that was signed by 39 groups of substance. And their constituents, I forget how they termed it, but constituents and employees and people, customers and all of that, the total up to 102,000 people. 105, I stand corrected. 109, it keeps going up. don't want to make a big speech now. There's been great things said about this, the principle of what we're trying to do, how effective it will be, how it brings community, social justice along with energy and environmental justice to the table. And these are things that will be recognized, I think, for a long time. Right now, I'm not going to tell anybody how to follow through. But if you've ever been involved in a political campaign, it takes everything. It takes the signs, and it takes the flyers, it takes the phone calls, and it takes the polls, and it takes everything you can do. The only way to run for office, I've always said, and I got a little experience in that, is you pull out the throttle all the way and you run full speed. I know it may be asking a lot, but I'd like to ask each and every one of you in your own way to do that. Do that now, because a week from now, maybe a little more, it won't make any difference. It's what I'm going to do. I informed my wife last night, she didn't like it much, that I was willing to give up my Father's Day tomorrow if it would help to jump in my car and drive to talk to a representative or a senator that I need. I am very disappointed, extremely disappointed on every score. Disappointed that my colleagues aren't more aware than this of some continuing lack of support for this bill. But I'm also absolutely discouraged by not discouraged, I don't get discouraged. I'm disgusted by the fact that the people who have been arranging for telephone calls that personally attacked me and attacked this program, I don't care about me. I've got a tough enough hide by now after 44 years in the state Senate. You could shoot me with an elephant gun. And but that they are doing this, and they didn't even come here today to give their point of view. They're just hiding out, waiting to set a trap like a, I don't know what you call it. So my urging is there's a lot of things you have to do in your life. They're important. Thank you for everything you have done. If you got a little measure more, now's the time to use it. Thank you.
Monday? Committee
All
hearing
right,
on
I have
Monday.
a committee hearing scheduled. The bill has not been assigned to committee. So we're not sure what that means, but with the coronavirus thing, having to operate in the coronavirus, everything is twisted and turned. And unfortunately, what it's done is allowed a handful of people in the legislature to sort of take control everything. And that's not the legislature that I've served in for 44 years. Legislature I've served in for 44 years, every single member was equal to every other member. I better not say any more, I'll get myself in trouble. Thank you again. I guess that's it. We're out of time, I think. So thank you all. I'll put my mask on so I can come and bump elbows with you. If you want.
Senator, I'm going to get going.
Yeah, thank you,
It
Eddie.
was good. It was good. And I will personally speak to the speaker. And I will let you know how that conversation
Yes.
goes.
Yes, you about his ministry. You know, that was from his ministry.
Yeah. And those Sussex folks need to be talking to their legislators.
Yeah, yeah.